Good morning, Zion Lutheran Church. Let's go ahead and jump into last week's reading, the epistle reading, which is from James 1:16 through 21. So just to read it real quick. Do not be deceived, my beloved brothers. Every good gift, this is what we're going to be focused on, every good gift and every perfect gift is from above, coming down from the Father of lights, with whom there is no variation or shadow due to change. Of his own will, he brought us forth by the word of truth, that we should be a kind of first fruits of his creatures. Know this, my beloved brothers, let every person be quick to hear, slow to speak, slow to anger, for the anger of man does not produce the righteousness of God. Therefore put away all filthiness and rampant wickedness, and receive with meekness the implanted word, which is able to save your souls. All right, so let's talk about this, what I've underlined here in the beginning, every good gift and every perfect gift. And so let's start with the good gift. So this is the Greek word dosis, and I guess with English characters it looks like this, dosis. So whenever we use this Greek word, it's used frequently to describe God's giving of himself for salvation, right? So we can think of that in terms of a Christological gift. So God gives himself. So that's kind of the object of what this gift is describing, because whenever we read it in English, it's like, okay, yeah, he gives two kinds of gifts, a good gift and perfect gift. What's the difference? What's the why? So here it helps explain what kind of gifts we're talking about. It's a gift where God gives himself. And certainly we can understand that in a Christological sense, that that James here is actually talking about Christ, but even this perfect gift, which this word for gift here, I'll write it down here, is dorema. Dorema. So this is this word dosis comes from the Greek verb to give. So it's God giving of himself. Dorema, right here, the perfect gift. It's typically how Paul uses to describe salvation. It's used in describing God's generosity to mankind. So it's still a gift, but here this is more emphasizing the graciousness of God here with the perfect gift. And here we have the good gift, the God giving of himself, as identified with this here good gift. And I think maybe what's helpful is I had a sermon a while back on the Good Shepherd, and what does it mean for Jesus to be the Good Shepherd? And it's that he lays down his life for the sheep. So maybe that's how we can think of it here, is this good gift of a giving of himself for the sake of others. So where does this gift come from? It comes from above. So this is the Greek word anothen. And this is reminiscent of John and Nicodemus's conversation. Jesus and Nicodemus's conversation in John's gospel. Whenever Nicodemus says, "How do I need to be saved?" And then Jesus says, "You must be born from above." That's the same word here, anothen, from above. It's typically rendered in Greek as born again, but it's really a rebirth. It's being born again, but it's being born from above. And so we can kind of see the connection there between those two themes, that we have an incarnational gift, right? It comes from above, it comes to us. It comes down from the Father of lights, reminiscent of Jesus saying, "I am the light of the world." let's see. Let's talk about kind of the end here with this implanted word business. So a lot of people say, James is a terrible book of the Bible because it doesn't mention Jesus at all. That it's void of Christological teachings, and especially how Christ is the one who saves us. To which I say, you're not actually reading the book with the intentionality that's written behind what's being said. So James's big point in his epistles is that faith does things, that faith is never stagnant, but faith acts. Luther didn't like it because it questionably involves faith in the salvation paradigm, but that's not necessarily what James is trying to get across, but rather he's looking at it a different direction than, say, like Paul is or something like that. But so let's look at verse 21. So therefore put away all filthiness and rampant wickedness. So that's put away everything that's wicked. So in the human life, we certainly encounter this in our sin all the time. We love to run rampant in wickedness. We love to, as pigs do, just kind of wallow in the filthiness. But James is saying, put that away, and instead do what? Receive with meekness. Receive what? What's the object of our reception? But it's the implanted word, right? And so here, James says, which is able to save your souls. So we have to understand this in terms of John 1:1, whenever John writes that Jesus is the Word made flesh, that Jesus is the Word. And whenever we hear that word, we can think of it in terms of the Old Testament scriptures, that he is the Old Testament scriptures incarnate, which is able to save our souls. And so so put away all wickedness and filthiness, and receive, instead of wickedness and filthiness, receive with meekness, with a humble heart, receive the implanted word. That is the Word made flesh. John 1:1. Well, I think it's actually John 1:14, but receive John 1:1, the Word made flesh, the implanted word, which is certainly spoken. This gospel news is spoken to you, but it's implanted in you. And as all things that are planted, as I'm learning, as I'm becoming a hobby gardener, that things that are planted grow. And this is what's able to save your souls. The word being there and planted within you, this receiving with a humility, the implanted word that is Christ. And so let's see. So yeah, this is something that maybe one day we'll. I did a Bible study one time on James, and I loved it, and it's chock full of deep, rich terminology and concepts which beautifully explain the salvation and what faith looks like. People often like to pit Paul against James, but I think they do so unfairly. But anyway, so those are the few things that I was looking at on James 1, and we'll have the gospel lesson, John 16, 5 through 15, to you soon.